do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indie Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indie Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome in. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on one of the two best days of the year. You know, maybe it'll be today, maybe it'll be tomorrow, but one of these 2 days is going to have a ton of upsets, and it's going to be glorious. And the games, they don't start till noon, which means I could do my show kind of like normal and then settle in. I'm so pumped. So pumped to get into everything March Madness related. Zack Gray is going to join the show coming up at 11. He's done an excellent job this year gambling college basketball. He's going to tell you who to pick and who not to pick in terms of your bets and probably in your bracket as well. But before we get into the NCAA tournament, I have more thoughts on Darian DeVries leaving West Virginia. He was asked yesterday during his opening press conference why he left West Virginia for Indiana, and here's what Coach DeVries had to say.
A dream job for anyone, but especially for someone that grew up in the Midwest watching the old Big 8 and Big 10 basketball. The chance to lead one of the biggest brands in college basketball was something I could not pass up. This place has many of those same qualities that my family and I look for and want to be around. And I have always looked for that fit for myself, for my family, and making sure it all aligned.
New India head coach Darian DeVries right there at his press conference yesterday talking about why he chose Indiana. And, you know, I don't really believe him. I don't. That is not why Darian DeVries chose to leave West Virginia to come to Indiana. Darian DeVries falls in a pretty similar category of guys like Myles Garrett and Max Crosby. Myles Garrett wanted to be traded by the Browns until they said, we'll pay you $40 million a year if you stay. And all of a sudden he was like, you know what? Cleveland is great. The lake right there. I love the snow. I love being cold all the time. And so, you know, $40 million a year. All of a sudden, Cleveland seemed pretty great. Max Crosby wanted to leave the Las Vegas Raiders. And then they were like, well, what if we paid you $35.5 million a year? And Max Crosby was like, okay, that's fine. Probably not going to win anything with Geno Smith as my quarterback, but $35.5 million a year. I can't say no to that. And so Max Crosby stayed in Las Vegas and Myles Garrett stayed in Cleveland. Now, at this time last year, Darian DeVries was, you know, very honest. I think he was, at least. I believe that everything that he said in this next clip that I'm about to play is entirely true. But last year, he's sitting down doing his opening press conference for West Virginia basketball, and they asked him, why West Virginia? And he gave a very long answer, one hinting at him staying for a long time. Here's Coach DeVries last year saying why he didn't want to leave West Virginia.
You know, I said this a lot, and I know Ren mentioned it. I spent 20 years at Creighton University because that was the place that I loved. That was a place my family loved, and I wasn't going to leave, you know, Creighton University for just any job at the time. And I wanted the right one when I got my first head coaching job. And to me, that was Drake University and a place that I wanted to be. I felt like there was a vision there. There was a plan there. And then I spent the last 6 years there, and it was incredible. And I know when I took the job, I said it would take something pretty special. I'm from Iowa. I grew up in the Midwest. It was going to take something special to have me leave there. And, you know, when I talk to Ren and talk to people that know this program and this place and the people here, everything about it made sense to me, made sense to my family, that this was a place that we could see ourselves at for a very, very long time, a place that we felt we could enjoy as a family, enjoy as a basketball coach, enjoy being a part of this community. And obviously Ren was a big part of that too. I mean this when I say that I don't think there's many better out there, and not just because of his shoe game, but he's got an incredible passion and vision for this place, and we believe in it.
That was Coach Darian DeVries last year when he took the job at West Virginia, basically saying that he wanted to be in West Virginia for a long time, and now he's from Missouri. And so him leaving Drake was kind of hard, and he wanted to make sure that he went to a program there where, he felt like he could be there for a long time and all that good stuff. And when he said it, he probably meant it. Just like when Myles Garrett said he wanted to play for a contender. It's probably true when he said it. I'm sure he didn't like losing, 14 games a year or whatever it ends up being. When Max Crosby said he wanted to go play for a winner, I think he meant it. Then big fat checks got put in front of all these guys, and they couldn't say no. I don't blame them. If you put a big fat check in front of me to go just about anywhere, I'm probably not going to say no. It's a lot of money that these guys got offered. And when you look at Coach DeVries and him leaving, West Virginia for the Indiana job, it's not because Indiana is, Indiana. It's not. Darian DeVries, based on reports, is going to make $5 million a year over the next 6 years in Indiana. Last year, he made $2.8 million at West Virginia. He almost doubled his salary, and he went to a program, Indiana, that has one of the 5 largest NIL budgets in the country. This isn't a no-brainer move, leaving West Virginia for Indiana, because Indiana is Indiana, and they're a blue blood, and, he wants to, be the savior and restore Indiana basketball to the prominence that it once had. And that's not why he came to Indiana. I'm sure that's part of what makes the job appealing, because whoever revives isn't the word that I really want to use, but let's go with it. Whoever revives that Indiana basketball program, they're going to be really popular, not just here in the state of Indiana, but all across the country. Yes, that is part of why the Indiana job is appealing. But the straw that stirs the drink is the $5 million a year in a monster NIL budget. Okay, like this is easy. Money talks louder than anything else in college sports right now. If any program, Indiana, Purdue, Colorado, whatever, if you have the money to pay a head coach a nice salary, like Indiana is doing for Coach DeVries, and you also have the money to, fund a big NIL budget, then you can hire whoever you want. And Indiana can do that right now. They got a lot of money. They're cool. They're paying a bunch of coaches right now, but hey, that's fine. They have boosters, Indiana University does, who just hand over money. And that's awesome. If it was me, ain't no way I'm doing that. But, I also don't have as much money as those guys. So maybe if I had that much money, I would act a little bit differently. I will never forget Dusty May, the head coach at Michigan, went on Dan Dockage's show earlier in this season. And Dan was asking him about the transition to Michigan. What's that like? How's NIL? And when Dan asked Coach May about NIL, Dusty May talks about how he had to go around Ann Arbor and he had to meet with donors. And he basically had to fundraise. He had to ask them for money for the NIL budget. That's what he had to do. Now, Michigan has, a lot of alumni. They care about sports in Ann Arbor. I'm sure they've got a couple rich alumni that I am unaware of. And Dusty's a really nice guy. So I'm not surprised that he raised the money that he did to bring in Danny Wolf and all of these other guys, okay? That sounds like a pain in the butt, though. Having to go around, kiss butt, just to, get a little extra NIL money. Like, that's a frustrating thing. That sounds like no fun whatsoever. And that is not the situation at Indiana. Darian DeVries is going to show up and mainly have to worry about basketball. Sure, he'll have to shake hands with all the big donors and probably go to some dinners that he probably doesn't want to go to, because who likes going to those banquets? I don't. Who likes going to a banquet? Not me. Anyway, but he'll have to do all those things, say all the right things to the right people and shake hands. But that's really it. He's not going to have to walk in and sit down for an hour with some Indiana donor and be like, here's what we're going to use the money for. Here's why it'll help us. We're going to get this kid. He's from this school, blah, 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 blah. All that good stuff, okay? He's not going to have to do that. He's going to walk in, and they're going to be like, all right, here's your, $5 million, $8 million, whatever it is, in NIL. Here's your $5 million a year salary. Go win us basketball games, and if you don't, we're going to fire you pretty quickly. Because that's how it is in Indiana. You have every resource made available to you when you sit in that office. That is why this job is so appealing. It's not because of the history of Indiana. Darian DeVries, or Coach DeVries, he's showing up at Indiana, a bigger program than West Virginia, making more money than he did at West Virginia, while also having one of the largest NIL budgets in the country. Very few young coaches would turn that down. Now, an older established guy who's been somewhere a long time, Tom Izzo, who else? Let's just go with Izzo. I don't feel like coming up with a bunch of examples right now. Like he's never going to leave Michigan State. Like he wouldn't. Doesn't matter how big or small the NIL budget is. But a 49-year-old Coach DeVries, who, from my understanding, had no ties whatsoever to West Virginia, was undoubtedly going to leave to come to Indiana, one of the biggest brands in the sport, with what feels like unlimited resources. It's a no-brainer. I just hope he wins. He was talking yesterday, and I like him. I do. I don't think he's going to say anything dumb. I think he's going to be pretty boring, which is a good thing. And he was talking yesterday about scheduling, tough non-conference opponents, which I like. I think it's important to test yourself in the non-conference against good teams. So apparently he's got Kentucky on the schedule, and he's got Marquette on the schedule as well. Love that. Indiana and Kentucky should play each other every single year. All right, those games are going to be awesome, especially since Mark Pope is a really good coach down there in Lexington. So he said everything right so far, which is good. I like the idea of testing your team early. That way we can kind of see where this Indiana team stands amongst some of the better programs in the country. Seeing them beat Winthrop at home just isn't really going to do it for me. But if they go to Marquette and they lose by 3, that I learned way more about this Indiana basketball team with them doing that than I do them playing, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, or whoever. So I'm excited. I like Coach DeVries. I'm sure he'll do well in the portal with all that money. And hopefully he pays the right guys because, Coach Saban said it this year on the desk doing College Game Day during the football season. If you pay the wrong guy, you're SOL. You are. And, when you get all that money, man, like I just hope it goes well. Okay, his son, Tucker DeVries, he's going to come over. He's going to play at Indiana. Dude's a really good player, 2-time Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year. Big, like 6'7". They're shooting 47% from 3 last year before he got hurt. During Coach DeVries' press conference yesterday, he talked about how he made some comment. It's got West Virginia fans all upset. Apparently Indiana talked to Coach DeVries during the season, which good. That's what they should do. That's what everyone does. Okay? These whole no tampering rules, yeah, not a thing. Yes, sure, they exist, but no one's ever been busted for tampering in the history of sports. I'm sure there's one out there, but come on now. Modern day and age, it just doesn't really seem to happen. So good job, Indiana, for tampering and bringing in a guy who I think is going to be a pretty good head coach right from the jump. Got a big show today. Purdue plays High Point at 12:30, 12:40, kind of somewhere in there. Games start at noon, which is freaking awesome. Can't wait for that. The games last night, amazing. Jeez, man, Texas. Bad shots down the stretch. Too many tough step back threes in big spots. They missed all of them. It's like every time Texas absolutely needed to get a bucket late in that game against Xavier, it's like, oh, let's take a tough contested step back 3. Good luck making that shot. You're not going to. Anyway, So that game last night was amazing. We got more good games in store today. Creighton and Louisville, they get it kicked off today. And I got to be honest, that matchup, it's really upsetting me quite a bit because people keep saying something very specific about Louisville, and then they say something else, and it doesn't add up to me. So when we come back here in about 4 minutes, I'm going to give you the best games of the day, and then I'm going to give you the Sackman games of the day, and it's all going to be great. Best games of the day. The thing about Creighton and Louisville that's really irking me coming your way here in about 4 minutes.
Unadulterated sports talk with unfiltered takes. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether it's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there, subscribe. Watch over there, hop in the chat to be part of the conversation. Maybe you're watching on X or that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you get your apps. The NCAA tournament, round of 64, starts today. We got games starting basically at noon. Creighton playing Louisville. And so I want to run through the best games of the day, the games that I think are going to be legitimately close. And then I'm going to run through what we're going to call Sackman games after that, and I'll explain that when we get there. If you want a great place to watch the games today, head down to Dave & Buster's in Greenwood. Hang out with Dan Dockich, who's going to be there. And he's doing some Pop-A-Shot thing, and if you can somehow, some way beat him, you can potentially win tickets to watch the Pacers play the Orlando Magic on April 11th. Tickets provided by Moondrops Distillery. Now, the best games of the day. Here we go. Creighton and Louisville play at 12:15. And the way this game's been talked about has just really bothered me. It has. Everyone keeps telling me that Louisville's underseeded. I see it over and over again. Oh, they finished second in the ACC or wherever they finished. They were ranked 10th in the final AP poll and all that good stuff. I don't know if they were underseeded or not. Here's what I do know. The ACC wasn't good this year. So after everyone is telling me that Louisville's underseeded, they then follow it up with, oh, this is going to be such a good game. Creighton, Louisville, oh, this game's going to be so good. But what's really funny, I haven't heard anyone tell me that Creighton has been underseeded. If Louisville shouldn't be an 8 seed, if they should be like a 4 seed or a 3 seed, then why are we acting like this game is supposed to be close? I don't get it. I do think this game is going to be close. I don't think that Louisville was underseeded. I think they were properly seeded. I think they're about as good as Creighton, and Creighton's a 9 seed. So I'm going to say that Louisville deserves to be an 8. So that game, that gets us started today at 12:15, I think is tip, but the broadcast obviously starts a little bit before that. Next game that I think is going to be a lot of fun. VCU plays BYU at 4:05. These are contrasting styles. This is one of the best parts about March Madness. This is what used to be great about bowl games and college football. Every conference has some sort of identity. So for college basketball, the SEC is the most athletic league in the country. That cannot be argued. The Big Ten is very fundamentally sound. I think teams play a little bit slower, even though the offense has picked up this year. You know, you go out west, you look at like the Big 12. I think that's a tougher, kind of more defensive-oriented conference compared to some of the other ones. And so you get these contrasting styles, and that's what we have with VCU and BYU. VCU, they're all about getting stops. BYU is like, we're going to score 90 points a game and we're going to see if you can keep up with us. I find this to be one of the more fascinating first-round matchups. I can't wait to watch it. A lot of people like VCU as an upset pick, which kind of makes me want to lean with BYU. Georgia plays Gonzaga at 4:35. Gonzaga might have their swagger back. They might have their swagger back. Okay, Georgia, however, they can beat anyone. They beat Florida. They beat St. John's. Okay, like they can beat anyone in the country. But Markview and Gonzaga have made 9 straight Sweet 16s for a reason. They can really fill it up. Georgia, pretty normal SEC team, big, athletic. I think this is going to be one of the better games of the day. I don't think people realize how good Georgia can be. Arkansas and Kansas, that game's going to be great. 7-10, prime time. Coach Cal and Coach Self, 2 coaching legends, coaching not their best teams. Both of these teams are flawed. Neither team has really lived up to the expectations set before them at the start of the season. But that doesn't mean that they won't figure it out now. I think this game's going to be awesome. I would take Kansas. Arkansas only has 8 scholarship players available because of injuries. And one of those guys is Boogie Fland, who is wildly talented, but hasn't played since December. So that's kind of an issue, if you ask me. That's kind of problematic. So I would take Kansas in that game. They're favored by 4.5 for a reason. Yale, they're going to play Texas A&M tonight, 7:25. This is another popular upset pick. I'm not buying it. Okay, like this should probably be a Sackman game, which we're going to get to here in a minute. But this is another game contrasting styles. Yale is not athletic. They are, sound fundamentally. They take good shots. They shoot it really well from three. They don't turn it over. And they know where their bread is buttered. They know who's getting the basketball when they need a bucket. They're going to one of those two big guys, okay? Meanwhile, Texas A&M is going to show up and just be like, we are way more athletic than you are. And they're going to soar all over Yale. Okay, they're going to grab a bunch of offensive rebounds. And I know what you're going to say. Yale, really good defensive rebounding team. They haven't had to rebound against Texas A&M. Texas A&M grabs offensive rebounds against everybody. Just ask Purdue fans or ask the fans that were at that, Purdue Texas A&M game earlier in the season. Texas A&M has a legitimate bucket getter in Wade Taylor IV. This game, I think it's going to be interesting because the styles are very contrasting. Yale, very clean offense. When you watch Texas A&M play, there are moments where the game looks like a rugby scrum. Guys are diving on top of each other, battling for loose balls. It's great. Okay, so I'm going to take A&M in that game, but I do expect that game to be a little more entertaining. I do expect for Purdue and High Point to be entertaining. This is going to be, I think, the best offensive game of the day. Both of these teams can score a ton of points. Okay, High Point scores the ball from 2, better than anyone else in the country. Also important to remember, High Point has not played a quad 1 game in the last 2 years. Okay, now, to be fair, tough matchup for Purdue because Purdue defends 2-point shots terribly. High Point runs a lot of drop coverage. Braden Smith is going to eat that up. And High Point isn't going to have an answer for Trey Kaufman-Wren. And I say that because no one has an answer for the should have been an All-American, Trey Kaufman-Wren. This is another popular upset pick. I think part of that is people see the offense from High Point. And the other part of this is people know Purdue's history. I would like to think that the Final Four run from last year erased those demons. But we're going to find out today. I like Purdue in that game pretty easily, honestly. I just don't think that High Point is going to be able to keep up because they haven't played a team of Purdue's caliber in the last 2 years. Now we get to Sackman games. And if you aren't familiar with the station, Indie Sports Ticket, you're probably like, what in the world is a Sackman game? Sackman is a legendary figure who calls into, the Dan Dockett show, which I produce and kind of co-host Monday through Friday. And he bets. He hits a lot of bets. But the other thing with him is whenever he bets, he's not looking at numbers or anything like that. He's looking at one thing and one thing only. He looks at who is the public taking, and he fades the public. That is how he goes out. That is how he goes about making his bets. So the Sackman games are games where I'm going to take the higher seed to win because everyone seems to like the lower seed. McNeese plays Clemson today at 3:15. And a lot of people are on McNeese. I think there's former big coach bias here. Will Wade, very popular. I would argue that more people in the world of college basketball know Will Wade better than they know Brad Burnell, even though Clemson went to the Elite Eight last year. Will Wade's a very polarizing figure. And when people just know the name of a coach, they bet on them. Okay, but here's the thing. McNeese was a popular 12-5 upset pick last year. They got dogged. I think McNeese was better last year than they are this year. Clemson is good. I know the ACC was down, but they did beat Duke and Kentucky this year. They have as many wins as McNeese State does in a tougher conference. I think Clemson rolls them today. Drake plays Missouri at 7:35. Ben McCollum quickly became the hottest coach in the country. Everyone with an opening is going to try to hire this guy. Everyone seems to be betting on this team today. Everyone bet on Darian DeVries at Drake last year because DeVries was the new hotshot. And then last year, Drake lost to Washington State in the first round. They couldn't beat Miles Rice last year. And now we fast forward to this year, different team. Missouri's good. Missouri's better than the Washington State team from last year. And people say, oh, well, they sputtered at the finish line. They lost 4 of their last 5 games. Yeah, here's who they lost to. They lost to Florida and Kentucky. And then their other 2 losses were on the road against Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. Winning on the road is hard. Oklahoma and Vanderbilt are good basketball teams. This game isn't on the road. It's at a neutral site. I think Missouri overwhelms Drake athletically, and they win this game. Another semi-popular upset here. Utah State plays UCLA late tonight, 9:25. UCLA finished 4th in the Big Ten last year. This year, excuse me. Yet no one seems to think that they're any good. Mick Cronin, that guy's a good coach. He's won 500 games in his career. He is the youngest active coach with 500 wins. He's only 53. That guy is a really good basketball coach. UCLA, they can defend. And Mick Cronin has a bit of a history winning games in March. He is 12-11. He's been to the Final Four. He is a good coach. I think UCLA cruises against against Utah State. Last game here that I would like to highlight. UC San Diego is playing Michigan at 10 o'clock tonight. This is, I think, the most popular 12-5 upset pick in the NCAA tournament this year. This is the definition of a Sackman game. Fade the public. For some reason, people love UC San Diego. Do not fall for it. Okay? Do not fall for it. There are Power 6 teams that do not match up with Michigan's size and athleticism. UC San Diego is going to have nobody out there who can guard Danny Wolf, yet alone the Golden Kid. Okay? They do not match up. They don't have the size to deal with Michigan. They have one guy that's 6'10". Everyone else is 6'8" and under. They only have 4 players listed as forwards on their roster. Everyone else is a guard. Fade the public. Take Michigan. This is what I would do. I took some time this morning. Got on my FanDuel app. I have decided that I am once again going to do what I did last year. I'm betting the underdog on the money line all year long, or all March Madness long. And I'm going to see if I come out with more money again. I did last year. I'm hoping to do the same thing again this year. Zack Gray, he's going to join the show coming up at 11 o'clock. It's going to be a blast because it's always fun whenever he comes on the show. And we're going to do a bunch of stuff on March Madness. It's going to be really good. You don't want to miss it. He's coming on at 11 o'clock. When we come back in 4 minutes, I'm going to do a Funless Friday. I know it's not Friday. I know it's Thursday. But it just feels fitting to do this on the first day of March Madness. We're doing the best Cinderella teams ever when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Spring's here, and it's time for a new patio. Indy Decorative Concrete is offering free demolition. Got an old deck? Cracked concrete? We'll remove it at no cost. Hurry, this offer ends April 30th. Go to indydecorativeconcrete.com for details.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Tickets. Heath Har chiming in saying we're all rooting for High Points today, correct? I am not. I married into a Purdue family, so boiler up, I guess. NCAA tournament starting up today. In honor of that, we're doing a Fun List Friday on a Thursday. Before I forget, Zack Gray joining the show coming up here in about 20 minutes. So for the Fun List Friday on a Thursday, we're doing the best Cinderella stories ever. Let's just jump right into it because there's a lot of teams and a lot of information, okay? 2013 Florida Gulf Coast has to be in here for me. 15 seed in 2013. They reached the Sweet 16. They were the first 15 seed to ever do so. The Eagles upset Georgetown in the first round. Then they beat San Diego State in the second round. And they were awesome. They were so much fun to watch. Dunk City played a nice, entertaining brand of basketball. This was, playing small ball in 2013 was, not as universally accepted as it is now. And they were really good. Sherwood Brown, like that dude was a bucket, ASUN player of the year. And, Florida Gulf Coast eventually lost to Florida in the Sweet 16. Number 9, VCU 2011. They didn't earn an auto bid that year, but they were an at-large team, which doesn't happen very often. And they just turned it on, man. They won a bunch of close games against powerhouses. This was really when Shaka Smart bursted onto the scene. Okay, they won their first 3 games by, at least 13 points. And like VCU, they were tested when they beat Florida State in the Sweet 16. They were dominant. They beat Kansas by 10 to get to the Final Four. VCU Butler that year is the first double-digit Final Four matchup ever. Okay, and it was really, really cool. The Rams, they were the first team to ever go from first 4 to the Final Four, and that program is much more recognizable as a brand today because of that. Number 8, 2011 Butler, right? They get to the national title game in 2010, lose on that Gordon Hayward half-court buzzer beater that rimmed out. Gordon Hayward leaves, goes to the NBA, and Butler just kept it rolling. Brad Stevens doing his thing. Okay. And they entered the 2011 tournament as an 8 seed, barely beat Old Dominion in the first round. You know, that Matt Howard tip in the final seconds was awesome. Okay. And then they beat number 1 seed Pittsburgh. Right. They also ended up beating Wisconsin and Florida on that run. And then obviously they beat VCU to get to the national championship game again. Okay. The Brad Stevens legacy at Butler is just never going to be topped. Okay. Those two Butler teams were awesome. Number 7, 2008 Davidson. This is the Steph Curry year, right? You know, going into the 2008 NCAA tournaments, Davidson hadn't won a game in the NCAA tournament since 1969. Davidson was a 10 seed and got to the Elite 8 behind, Steph Curry just being insane. They beat Gonzaga, Georgetown, and Wisconsin. They eventually lost to Kansas. But that game was close. That game was awesome. Only lost by 2. And then Kansas obviously ended up going and winning the whole thing that year. Steph Curry was nothing short of spectacular. 34 points is what he averaged on 4 assists a game, 4 steals, while making 53% of his threes. In that, incredible. In that 3-game stretch where they beat Gonzaga, Georgetown, and Wisconsin. And, turns out he just went on to be the best shooter ever. So, yeah, that Davidson run back in 2008 was magical. 2006, George Mason. Okay, there was some skepticism that George Mason would even make the tournament that year. Because they didn't win their conference tournament. They lost to the Patriots that year. But they grabbed an 11 seed as an at-large bid, and they certainly didn't disappoint Jim, Larinaga's group. They beat Michigan State, North Carolina, UConn en route to the Final Four, where they would lose to Florida. Okay, the Elite 8 win over UConn, that was kind of the most memorable part of it. Going up against, Rudy Gay, Marcus Williams, Josh Boone, and that game ended up going to overtime, and George Mason ended up finding a way to win. George Mason was the first CAA team to ever reach the Final Four and the second 11 seed ever to reach the national semifinal. Next on the list, I'm going back to before I was born. 1990 Loyola Marymount. They made the Elite 8 as an 11 seed that year, led by head coach Paul Westhead. Team was fun to watch. There are NBA teams that I wish I could have seen. Think, 96 Bulls, some of those Showtime Laker teams, Bird with the Celtics, a lot of those teams. I wish I could have seen this 1990 Loyola Marymount team play because they could just score, averaging 122 points a game. That's crazy. That is a lot of points. They played fast. They chucked threes. Oh, man. So they beat Michigan that year by a score of 149 to 115 in the second round of the tournament. And then in their next round, they play Alabama and they win 62-60. Crazy. Golly, I wish I could have seen this team. But 149 points in college basketball is a crazy number. Okay. And then, of course, oh, man, it was great. That Loyola team. I really wish I could have seen them play. Anyway, number 4, 1988, we're going Kansas. I think that if you're a 6 seed and you win the whole thing, you are considered a Cinderella. Okay? And that is what Kansas did in 1988. They're a 6 seed. They go on to win the whole thing. And what's just kind of funny is there are years where Kansas as a 1 seed hasn't gone very far. So Danny Manning led Kansas that year, especially dominant in that national title game against Oklahoma. 31 points and 18 rebounds is just absolutely nasty. Kansas lost 11 games that year, which stands out as the highest total by a national champion ever. Just a really special stretch right there for Kansas being able to win the whole thing as a 6 seed. Number 3, 1986 LSU. They are the only 11 seed to this day to beat a 1, 2, and 3 seed in the same tournament. So LSU was also the first 11 seed to reach the Final Four that year in 1986. LSU beat Memphis State, Georgia Tech, and Kentucky in that order. Kind of crazy. In the 86 tournament, they won those games by less than an average of 4 points. Once again, insane stretch here from LSU. Okay, they ultimately lost to Louisville in the Final Four, but Dale Brown, man, they put on quite a show in 1986. Number 2, 1983, North Carolina State. Okay, they were a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament that year, but they won it all. Once again, if you're a 6 seed and you win the whole thing, like that is unprecedented. Okay, they beat some tough opponents. They beat, Virginia, which had Ralph Sampson, and Houston, which had Clyde the Glide Drexler and Hakeem Olajuwon. Coach Valvano, obviously one of the most charismatic coaches of all time. They go on, they win that they win that title, and look, if they make a 30 for 30 about your run, winning the entire thing, and they call it Survive and Advance, then you have to be on the list for best Cinderella runs ever. Obviously, we have Jimmy V Week every year now to raise money for cancer research. And so NC State 1983 has to be on the list. Number 1, though, 1985 Villanova. They were an 8 seed and they won the whole thing. Still the lowest seed of any national title winner to this day. I'm really hoping my Arkansas Razorbacks can change that this year. But, the Wildcats of Villanova entered the NCAA tournament with a not very good record of 19-10. Didn't win any of their first 3 March Madness games by more than 5 points. Just kind of scratched and clawed their way, pun intended, given that they're the Wildcats, through the tournament that year. Then Villanova runs into, a juggernaut Georgetown team in the national title game that year. Patrick Ewing, Dwayne McClain, and Villanova wins that game 66-64. Truly one of the best, the best Cinderella run ever, just simply because, they're an 8 seed who won the whole thing, which is kind of insane whenever you ask me about it. Coming up here in about 10 minutes or so, Zack Gray at ZG the Grapevine on Twitter. He's going to join the show. He's probably going to be on for a while because he, like any other person with common sense, took the day off. And you say, well, Jonathan, you didn't take today off. I would say you're right. I did not, but I do at least have 2 TVs in here. I have my iPad set up. Dan is doing the show in Greenwood today. If you want to watch the games with the great Dan Dockich, you can head down to the Dave & Buster's in Greenwood. There is a competition for a Papa shot. Dan's going to set hopefully a really, really high score. Once he sets it, if you can beat that score, you are then registered to win a pair of tickets to see the Pacers play Orlando on April 11th. Those tickets are provided by Moondrops Distillery. Must be present to win those tickets. So head on down to Greenwood, watch that. Rick's in here, making sure that everything's good to go for that. And it will be. His show's nice and lined up. Kent Sterling is going to join to talk about DeVries and him leaving West Virginia to come be the head coach at Indiana. And I'm sure that they'll get into the games as well. Purdue playing High Point today at 12:40. And I'm really curious, Purdue fans, how do you feel right now? Because we know the history of Purdue being a 4 seed, playing these 13 seeds. And, it's good. Anyway, so they're playing today. I'm so intrigued to see how this Purdue team looks. I know a lot of people are picking High Point to win that game. For me, I don't know how you can. Because Purdue's going to have the 2 best players in that game. Braden Smith's going to be the best player on the floor, and Trey Coffin-Wren, the All-American snub, is going to be the second best player on the floor. And that's just the simple reality of it. And I get it. It's one game, and is there a world where some dude for High Point goes crazy? Yes, because Purdue is not a very good team on the defensive side of the ball. But are they going to go crazy enough to be better than Braden Smith and or Trey Coffin-Wren? My bet is probably not. When Purdue needs a bucket, they're going to get it because they have the 2 best players on the floor. I know Indiana fans are pulling big time for High Point. And, would it be really funny if they lost? Absolutely. That would be just hysterical. I don't think they will, though. They also have a ton of experience on this roster. Like they have dudes who have played in big time games before. Look, they played in the freaking national title game last year. They did. Like that is what happened. And a lot of those guys who were there are back. Braden Smith, obviously, he played a kind of a big role in that run last year. Trey Kaufman-Renn was a starter on that team last year. Didn't play as big of a role. Okay. No doubt about that. Caleb First, he didn't, play a ton of minutes last year, but he was still a part of that team. He knows pressure, right? Just like being in that environment, kind of a big deal. Okay. Who else is going to get big minutes today for them? Fletcher Lawyer, a guy who also played in that national title game last year, started in that national title game last year. Okay. So like they have experience. Camden Heidi, he played a pretty decent sized role in that run to the national title game last year. So they have guys. Miles Colvin as well. He got some run here and there on that run. So like they've got experience. I don't think they're going to be rattled. I don't think they're worried about being upset. Okay. Not any more than they were last year coming off the season where they lost to a 16 seed. So I am very intrigued to see how they play today. Last time I checked, they were 7.5-point favorites. I expect them to win, and I really honestly expect them to cover that line because they're a good basketball team. And once again, when you have the two best players in the game, then it's hard for me not to bet on you. Like that's just the simple reality of it. And real quick before we head to break and we bring in Zack Gray, the Indiana Pacers need to get Tyrese Halliburton back. That way all their games aren't as drunk as they were last night. I mean, like they're just, they're down by 7 to the Dallas Mavericks with a minute left. The Mavs don't have anyone on their team pretty much, like they offered me a contract and I said, I can't, I have a show to do tomorrow and I got to be home in time to prep. And so I had to turn them down. Sorry, Mavericks, but like they don't have anyone on their team. And because of that, you just kind of expect for the Pacers to, run them out of the building. But for some reason, the Pacers, when they play teams that are banged up or not very good, they just don't play well. So they're down by 7 with, a full minute left to go in that game. And they, get lucky. That's really what happened. Mavericks missed some free throws. They commit just a horrendously bad backcourt turnover. And, the Pacers make their free throws. Andrew Nembhard hits a big shot after missing a couple in, which game was that? That wasn't the Minnesota game. It was the game before that. Milwaukee, maybe? I don't know. But he, left wing, a spot that he clearly really enjoys shooting from. He lines it up. He knocks it down. Pacers win. They're now a full game up on the Milwaukee Bucks for the 4 seed. They play the Nets tonight. They play the Nets on Saturday. Win those games and continue to hold on to that 4 seed. Okay. Like this is a very important stretch for them if they want to have home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. The Pistons, they keep on finding ways to win as well. And, we'll see how they look going forward. But enough of the NBA. It is day 1 of March Madness. So Zack Gray, who bets college basketball as well as anyone, professional sports gambler, he's going to join the show when we come back here in about 5 minutes. He's going to give out some bets. We're going to talk about Darian DeVries, him coming to Indiana. And then, of course, we'll get into our brackets. Zack Gray joins the show coming up here in about 5 minutes.
do this. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. You can watch the show on YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. If you head over there, subscribe, jump in the chat. Let me know who you picked to win in your NCAA tournament brackets. Joined now by Zack Gray at ZG the Grapevine on Twitter. Check out the Patreon linked in his bio. He's a professional sports gambler. He sells tools to help you make better bets. Zack, what's going on, man? How are you?
Jay Smith, it's time. It's time.
It's the best time of the year.
Oh, man, I can't wait.
Okay. Can I give you – where's my phone? There it is. Can I give you my favorite bet today?
Yes, please.
Missouri minus 6.5 against Drake.
You're speaking my language, Jay Smith.
People like Drake way too much.
Way too much.
And it's just I think we do this every year because I've got another one that I really like as well. Actually, I need to pull up the number on it. Where like the really hot named head coach that's going to leave and go to like, you know, a power school or whatever, everyone always bets that guy's team. Like last year, it was DeVries at Drake, and they lost. And I don't know if they covered or not, but McNeese, same thing. I really like Clemson today because that I think is a little different because that's like, I think more people know Will Wade than Brad Burnell. I think that's like a big coach bias thing, but same thing there. Like I really like Clemson today, and I really like Missouri.
Yeah, I just obviously I run my numbers, right? And I actually have a smaller edge than I would normally take for a game, but just the idea like that we are thinking Drake is something that they're not. They're slow. Their pace is slow. They're not super athletic. They have their limitations, and if they're able to control the game against Missouri today, like more power to them. But Missouri is good. They're athletic. They get up and down the floor. They get shots up. They're more athletic. They're just going to be able to speed Drake up. And I think 6-2 is not enough. Could I see this game being tight? At halftime and even into the second half, potentially, but I just think Missouri's too much. I don't think you can play the style Drake plays and win high-level basketball games, especially with the talent that they have. They aren't Virginia.
That is exactly right. They are not Virginia. And, yeah, no notes on that. I think that's exactly right. Joined by Zack Gray, professional sports gambler. Check him out on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine. College basketball is his thing, so make sure you were following him, and make sure you check out that Patreon linked in his bio as well.
4-0 in the NIT last night.
Ooh, let's go. So
yeah, 33-13 the last 7 days, just so everyone is aware of how hot we are right now.
I like that. So, by the way, I have decided to do what I did last year. I'm betting every underdog on the money line, and we're going to see how much money we make doing that.
Yeah, that worked out pretty well for you last year, right?
It did. And so hopefully it works out even better this year, which I don't know. I feel like the tournament, I really like a lot of the favorites this year. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I feel like it's weird because I feel like this year we're trying to like manufacture like matchups and upsets. And I think it's been said pretty frequently, but like it feels like it's going to be a pretty chalky year.
It does. Like I have 4 1 seeds in my Final Four, and I say that, and your reaction may be, well, Jonathan, that's chalk. I would argue it's not chalk because it's only happened once before.
That's a really good point. People don't think like that. That's a really good point.
Thank you. Okay, but before we really dive deep into the bracket, because there's a game in particular that the way people are talking about it, it really upsets me. And I want to ask your thoughts on it. But before we do, when Coach DeVries got hired at Indiana, you texted me and you had thoughts on the hire. So I just want to give you the floor just to kind of give your thoughts on Indiana hiring Coach DeVries.
Well, first off, I'm going to tell everyone to go bet Purdue -7.5. It comes on at 12:40.
Let's
so
go.
Go get Purdue. Purdue High Point won't be able to stop Purdue. Come on now. That's another trendy upset that people are picking that they don't really actually look into or understand. Like High Point's not going to be able to guard.
High Point hasn't played a quad 1 game in 2 years. They're not stopping Purdue.
Yeah, and 7.5 is crazy.
Agreed.
It's bonkers. But anyway, yeah, the DeVries thing, right? Like this last week it was Xavier. Well, it's going to always be Xavier. During football season, it was Indiana. There's always just these fan bases and teams that just absolutely irk me. And West Virginia right now is that team, is that fan base, because there's not a single West Virginia fan that if they were offered a better job with better resources, with better ability to have upward mobility,
more money,
with well, we haven't even gotten there yet. That's the point. Like with all like the resources alone, like the ability to do the best you can with unlimited resources, essentially. Like you're telling me not a single West Virginia fan would take that opportunity. And the answer is no, obviously everyone would.
Yeah.
So the idea that you guys they were all over him and excited that he was there and that he brought his son and this was going to be the thing West Virginia needed. Now he leaves and all of a sudden he's the worst coach ever. We're good riddance. It's, we're happy he's gone. His kid faked an injury because they knew this was happening. All this stuff. It's so dumb. And I think it's just a microcosm of like, you're just hurt and like, just admit that you're hurt. Like, I think I compared it to Jim Knowles leaving Ohio State for me. Like, at least I was upset and at least I admitted I was upset, but at no point was I like, oh yeah, we're better without Jim Knowles. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So like West Virginia fans are really bothering me this week. But as far as the hire, like, I don't know if you could have really had a better hire for guys that were available for Indiana. Like, I think this is if this doesn't work out, I don't know where to go.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Joined by Zack Gray at ZG the Grapevine on Twitter. He's a professional sports gambler. He sells tools to help you make better bets. You can check those out at the link to his Patreon in his bio. I'm with you. I think this is a really good hire. I think he's going to play a fun, entertaining style of basketball, something that they haven't really had here at Indiana. And you were just so right about why he left West Virginia. Indiana is almost doubling his salary. He's going to have a top 5 NIL budget in the country. So Coach May at the school up north, as you call it, he came on Dan's show earlier in the year, and I will never forget him saying that he had to like go to boosters at Michigan and essentially ask for money. And like, that's at Michigan. And, like a lot of alumni, I'm sure they've got some rich people out there. Clearly they do because they're paying Wolf and all those guys. But like, that sounds terrible, having to go ask people for money. Like, you don't have to do that at Indiana. Like that is why the job is as good as it is. Like, there's just a ton of resources, like you said, that West Virginia just simply does not have.
And West Virginia is not a bad program. It was a logical step for DeVries.
Oh yeah.
It's just when a job like Indiana comes open, anyone with a sound mind is going to take it. So you can say, I'm really upset that our coach left after a year. I'm really upset that we didn't make the tournament. I'm really upset that Tucker DeVries was hurt, while also not saying that West Virginia, Indiana, and Darian DeVries colluded with the NCAA tournament committee to keep him out so Darian DeVries could accept the job earlier. Like, that's where we're at.
Oh, that's so funny.
I saw that. It was like the Brian Windhorst meme in personified with them.
Yeah.
They're like, everyone knew and kept it a secret. And that's why West Virginia was out of the tournament. Instead of just saying the committee was incompetent and Darian DeVries gets paid more. Like, it's that simple.
Yeah, it is. You're exactly right. And I'm excited. I think DeVries is going to do a good job. He's actually scheduling like tough non-conference opponents, which I really like. You talked about, getting Marquette and Kentucky on the schedule already, which I'm a really big fan of. Like, I just want to know how good this team is early. Whereas, like, with Indiana this year, like, you watch them beat Winthrop, and you're like, I don't know, maybe we're good. So I'm so.
Is it true they're changing their name to University of Indiana? I heard that.
No, that is dude. Oh man, are you talking about Malik Renew? He
Yes.
Did you see he deleted it and he posted another one saying Indiana University?
No, I didn't. But like, he left it up for a long time. We all saw it.
Yeah, it's just that's an agent not doing his job. That's what that is.
Oh, and another thing on that regard. People are like, oh, it's professional. Like, under his post, they're calling, oh, this is crazy. It's professional athletics, da-da-da-da-da. It's like, if there was ever a time where a player should be able to leave, it's when their coach leaves.
Agreed.
Like, this is not the time to make this argument or fight this like this. This is actually one of the examples where there should be no question.
I don't want him back anyway. Like why are we complaining about this? I have a theory. I went over this yesterday when he said that he was leaving. When I look at the best teams in college basketball, and if I'm wrong, please tell me. I think we are slowly seeing teams move away from back to the basket post presence in college basketball. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think you're looking for athletic rim running bigs. I don't think the post up big is really, unless you're dominant, unless you're Zach Edey.
Yeah,
that's really not something we see as much anymore.
It's not. And Malik Renew was a back to the basket small big. He's only like 6'8". He can only go left. He's a less athletic, less skilled version of Trey Kaufman-Renn. That's what he is. So
yeah, but he was good. He stabilized that team a little bit, though.
He did. He's not like a bad player. I'm just saying that, like, I don't think that Indiana needs him to like go on a Final Four run next year or anything like that. Like I don't think that he's the difference between Indiana being good and great.
And that roster is going to look so much different. It's going to be fun to see what he does.
I'm so excited.
What Darian DeVries does.
I'm so excited. All right. Speaking of being excited, we got games coming on in like 45 minutes. And Zach, the first game of the day, the way people have talked about it, I need an explanation. People keep telling me that Louisville is underseeded, that they should not be an 8 seed, I think they finished, second or third in the ACC, and they finished 10th in the final AP poll. They should not be an 8 seed. I keep hearing people tell me that, Zach. And then people will then turn around and say that this Creighton and Louisville game is going to be great. But I haven't heard anybody say that Creighton was underseeded. And my thing is, if Creighton wasn't underseeded and Louisville was, shouldn't Louisville be more than a 2.5-point favorite? And shouldn't everyone expect for Louisville to kind of beat the crap out of Creighton today?
You would think the logic there is sound. I do think that Louisville probably should be more towards the 5 line than the 8 line, if just based on resume. And I do think Creighton kind of stunk early on in the season, and it kind of put them behind the 8 ball. But Jay Smith, like, I'm taking Creighton today. Like, I don't understand. Like, this is like the perfect matchup for Creighton. I think the only way that Louisville kind of starts to, pull away or wins this game is if they're consistently, planting themselves in the middle of the lane, in the middle of the defense, with Kalkbrenner being kind of the rim protector and consistently hitting tough mid-range jump shots. If they do that, it's kind of their style with Hepburn and those guys. But I just think this is a great matchup for Creighton, and I have Creighton winning. I'm not thinking too hard about this. Yes, Louisville should not have been an 8 seed, but also this is a bad matchup for them. So we have to just look at the matchup and not the seed.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Joined by my good friend Zack Gray at ZG the Grapevine on Twitter. He's a professional sports gambler. He sells tools to help you make better bets. You can check out those tools by clicking the link in his Twitter bio. I'm with you. I have Creighton as well for all the reasons that you just said. Also, I don't know if you know this, but like over the last 20 years or whatever, the 9 seed has won twice as many games against the 8 seed. And so when in doubt, take the 9 seed. So like I've got Baylor today beating Mississippi State. I got Georgia beating Gonzaga. The only 8 seed I have winning is UConn.
You have Georgia beating Gonzaga?
Yes. I don't know why. I just know that some things that are not supposed to happen are going to happen. And I don't know. I don't mind Georgia. My thing is like they beat Florida and St. John's. And if you beat Florida and St. John's, you can beat anyone.
Gonzaga hasn't not made it to the Sweet 16 in like 4 million years.
9 years. Yeah. It's been a while.
So why are we not taking Gonzaga?
I don't know. Because I just want to be different, man. I feel like everyone's on Gonzaga.
You know where I'm different?
Where?
I have Oklahoma over UConn, and I feel like everyone hates that.
Yeah, it's a Danny Hurley thing for me. I don't want to pick against that guy.
I think we're sleeping on Oklahoma.
Fears is awesome.
Yeah, I think we're sleeping a little bit. They went 13-0 in the non-con. We know Connecticut's problems. Oklahoma played in the best conference of all time and held their own. I think people are, and I fall into this trap. I feel like I bet against Connecticut way too much these last 3 years.
Yeah,
I've kind of learned not to do that and to bet the other way this year. I've done better, but there have been times where I've bet against Connecticut this year, and it's worked out a couple times. I know the 2 games against Villanova, I took Villanova against the spread, but it is Connecticut. They are 2-time defending national title winners, but there's just something about this team that I don't believe in and I don't trust. I don't know. And there's something about Oklahoma that I like. And it's one of those things where, like you said, just to be different, but there's just a feeling I have, and I can't quite put my finger on it, why I think this is going to happen. Yeah,
that's totally fair. Oklahoma, like you said, undefeated in the non-con, really good guards. UConn, not as good as they have been here recently. I am curious. Okay. Who's the double-digit seed that you have winning more than one game, if you have one?
VCU.
Okay, everyone seems to like VCU, which makes me hesitant to take them, even though I did take them. They're very good on the defensive side of the ball. They're older and experienced. Is that why you like them?
Yeah, I just think they're tough. I think they have a good. They have a good matchup against BYU today. I think BYU, if they make 23s, it's over.
Yeah.
Bye VCU. But I think that VCU can look at the tape for all of the BYU losses and see what they need to do. And I think that they have the ability to do so. Some teams don't have the ability to guard and to be as physical and to be as intense for 40 minutes as VCU does. And I think that's their calling card. I think it's what they do well. I think they can rattle the guards for BYU. And I just think it's a good matchup for them against BYU. And I just think it's a good matchup for them against Wisconsin too, because Wisconsin is also, excuse me, believe it or not, a high flying offense essentially.
Yeah.
That's not what we're really used to. And I just think VCU presents matchup problems for both of those teams because I look at those two teams similarly.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Joined by my good friend Zack Gray, professional sports gambler. Check out his Patreon, linked in his Twitter bio at ZG the Grapevine, where he sells tools to help you make better bets. I don't mind VCU. I've got him beating BYU, but losing to Wisconsin because I've really just liked Wisconsin all year, and I'd feel kind of fake if I preached Wisconsin all year and then took them to lose before the Sweet 16. I've actually got them beating Alabama in the Sweet 16. So,
oh really?
I do. Yeah, I got accused of glazing John Tanji the other day.
He's good.
He's so good, and I don't like picking against that guy. And like the rest of the offense has been really good this year. They have a pretty decent amount of size as well. So I really like them. The double-digit seed that I have going a ways, though, is New Mexico. I've got them beating Marquette and Michigan State. What do you make of that team?
I actually do have New Mexico winning today. I have them winning against Michigan State as well. I have them in the Sweet 16 against Iowa State. So there's been a couple here where we're on the same wavelength. I think of all the teams that aren't being talked about, is New Mexico being talked about? I think they might be, but
I don't think they are. Not enough, at least.
My point is that last year they were definitely the top trendy team when they played Clemson in the first round. They got their doors blown off. I think this year's a little different. I think they're a more complete team. I think they're more ready for the moment. I think Richard Pitino is more ready for the moment. And I just think Marquette has kind of just been running out of steam as of late, here towards the end of the season. And then Michigan State is kind of fake good to me. I know that they are where they ranked on Ken Palm and Torvik and all that, but I just think they're a little fake good. And New Mexico is one of those teams that I could see kind of putting it on them, hungrier, more intense, and getting all the way to the Sweet 16.
I'm with you. The Dent kid is really good. That's kind of my thing. Like, if I'm going to pick a mid-major team to win more than one game, you got to have a dude. And Dent is that. I've got Colorado State beating Memphis, which feels like an upset, but Colorado State's actually favored today. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I just think it's a thing where Memphis just plays down to whatever competition they're playing, and it's like pretty consistent. And I also think Colorado State's hotter than a firecracker. I think they just come out. They've been coming out and just putting it on teams right away.
Yeah.
They've just been able to shoot the ball really well, and I think it's just it's not a talent equated matchup, but I think it's just a thing where Memphis has shown, again and again, that they're going to play pretty much a straight up even game with someone until the last 4 minutes, and that's when the game will be decided.
Nick Clifford's really good. I don't know how much of him you've seen. Like a legitimate NBA guy, and when you have that, it's like I'm probably going to pick you. So, who's in your Final Four?
Ooh, do you want to guess?
Duke, obviously. I'm going to go Duke, Kentucky, Florida, and Auburn.
2 for 4. I have Auburn, Duke, Houston, and St. John's.
Okay. Why are you not concerned about St. John's lack of shooting?
I just think they're the best coach team in basketball this year. And I think they're going to go to the ends of the earth. And I think they're going to drag you out. I think I'm going to quote Dan Campbell, I think.
Nice.
They're going to bite your kneecaps. They're going to drag you out into the deep end, and they refuse to lose. They just have a motor that doesn't quit, and they refuse to lose. I think that we hear that a lot, and I think then when we watch St. John's play, we realize this team will not stop. They will not lose. They would rather die than lose, and that's a scary mentality for a team to have in a tournament. And I think that we don't really see that much anymore. And I think Rick Pitino has gotten that from these guys and will continue to get that from these guys.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally fair. I've got them losing to Texas Tech because the lack of shooting has to matter at some point. I think it does at least.
Why? They've gone through a whole season without it.
They have. I don't think the Big East is that great. That's part of it.
Well, they dominated it.
They did. You're right. And so did Duke. So maybe I'm, a little split on this kind of stuff, but I don't know. I just like.
Well, it's not a head-to-head. I have Duke and St. John's in my final with Duke winning. What
I just meant was like I have Duke. Like I really like Duke. They dominated a bad conference all year, and I really like them. And then you've got St. John's who did the exact same thing. For some reason, I'm just a little more hesitant to take them. I think part of it is I really like Texas Tech. JT Toppin is a monster. But at the same time, like the St. John's defense is really good. I just think Texas Tech, I don't want to call, I'm going to say, I think they're just a little more complete. And so I like Texas Tech over St. John's.
That's fair. I actually have Missouri beating Texas Tech in the round of 32. So I don't even have Texas Tech playing St. John's.
So, yeah, that's the thing. If it was Missouri, then I would absolutely take St. John's. Once again, joined by my good friend Zack Gray at ZG the Grapevine on Twitter. He's a professional gambler. He sells tools to help you make better bets. You can get those tools by checking out the Patreon linked in his Twitter bio. And then who'd you have coming out of the Midwest?
Which one's the Midwest?
That's
I
the
only do
Houston
top
region.
Left.
Bottom right.
Okay, I do top left, top right.
Okay, gotcha.
Bottom left,
bottom right. Bottom right.
Houston.
Okay, yeah, me too. They are how much better? I think they are better offensively this year than they have been in years past. I think they are. I think that they just shoot the ball so much better. What is it that you like about Houston?
Well, this might not be a hot take, but I feel like Houston's kind of getting the respect they deserve now. But I feel like I came on here about 2 weeks earlier than that and was like, why are we not talking about Houston as being one of the best teams in basketball? Yeah. I think you remember that when I was like, yeah, hey guys, remember Houston? But yeah, I think they're one of the top 4 teams in basketball, and I think they're complete. I think they can score it better. Uzan and Cryer are awesome. I love watching them play. They make big, tough shots late in games. Roberts, they can guard. They can rebound. They're complete. They're one of the best teams in basketball. And if they won the whole thing, I would not be shocked even one bit. And I feel like it's one of those things where we kind of forgot about them, and then they started, doing what they were doing late in the season, and more exposure and more people watching. It's like, oh yeah, remember Houston's always awesome, and they're going to be a tough out regardless.
They've got some St. John's to them in terms of like they'll bite your kneecaps off and then drag you out to sea and just not let you go anywhere. As what you said earlier, which is a great analogy, honestly, because that's what it feels like whenever you watch both of those teams play. I just think Houston's a little better offensively than St. John's. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I think they're better offensively. I do think they're more prone to defensive lapses than St. John's. I feel like, again, St. John's is one of those teams where I just feel like if I had to compare the two, I just think St. John's has a little more higher of a motor, a little more like anger to them. Yeah. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does.
I just feel like St. John's plays angrier than everyone else in the country.
Yeah, that's actually, I think that's a really nice way to put it. So I have Duke as my national title winner. I know you do as well. Why do you like Duke?
Because they're the best team in college basketball, and they have the best player. And I think it's that simple.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I landed. Like, Cooper Flagg is so good that we don't even talk about like Knuppel, who I love, by the way. Like he doesn't
miss.
He doesn't. He's amazing. He's just this big 6'7" point guard. And my one of my things for me, especially when I get down to like my final four, like my question is like, what are you going to go to offensively, and how much do I trust it? And like this Knuppel, Cooper Flagg ball screen where Cooper Flagg can pop out and shoot, or if you go under the screen, then Knuppel can pull up, and if Cooper Flagg rolls to the rim, then he's going to catch it, and he's going to get a good shot for somebody. And Knuppel can also get to the rim. Like I know that when they need a bucket, they're going to go to that, and I feel really good about them scoring it with that kind of set, more than anyone else.
They just have an embarrassment of talent and can beat you in a lot of different ways. And I know we're talking about Cooper Flagg and Knuppel scoring. They're awesome on defense. They have a top 3 defense in college basketball. They're literally the most complete team that I've seen in a long time. Is this the best Duke team we've seen in our lifetime?
I would argue yes. Definitely the most talented.
It's kind of nuts to say that, but I feel like it's true.
They're insane. Actually, are they more talented than the R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, Cam Reddish team?
I think without a doubt.
I agree. Yeah.
Like with those, there was those 3 guys, and then name another player off that team.
That's a really good point because I can't.
Right. And then now you look and they have Malik Brown and Knipple and is it Malak? How do you pronounce the center's name?
I know who you're talking about. The big center from Africa, yeah. Who's awesome, by the way.
And Cooper Flagg, and they just have a bunch. They have like 6 guys that are going to play meaningful NBA minutes next year. Like, that's insane.
It is. And I'm like you. I'm not going to pick against that. Zach, I'm over on a break. Can you hold on through the break? I want to ask you one more question, and then I'll let you go.
Sure.
All right, cool. We'll be right back with more from the professional sports gambler, Zack Gray, when we come back here in about 2.5 minutes.
It may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Continuing the NCAA tournament March Madness conversation with professional sports gambler Zack Gray. You can check him out on Twitter at ZG The Grapevine. He's on a roll right now. He sells tools to help you make better bets. You can check out those tools by clicking the link in his Twitter bio at ZG The Grapevine. You gave your record in the last segment over the past few days. You want to give it again?
Yeah, I'll anytime you ask, I'll make sure I let you know. But it's right now we're sitting at 33-13. We went 4-0 in the NIT last week. It's just things are rolling. I think for the last 30 days, let me check here. I'll actually make sure. The last 30 days we are, drum roll please, 116-76.
Jeez.
60% win percentage. plus 33 units. So we're absolutely on fire.
Let's go. Perfect timing for it too. Okay. So the most popular pick to win the NCAA tournament this year is Duke, which makes sense. Anytime Duke has a one by their name, they're going to be the most. They're going to be picked more than anyone else because there are people who fell out their bracket and they're like, I don't know, I've watched 12 minutes of college basketball all year. Oh, Duke's really good. I'm going to take them. So that makes sense. Florida's the second most popular pick team. You don't have them in your Final Four. What is it about Florida that you're cautious about?
I think it's just the overall hype around them. I'm being a bit of a contrarian. They're really good. They're scary good offensively. They put 86 on Tennessee and made it look like it was a pickup game.
Yeah.
So there's reasons to pick Florida. I don't doubt that at all. I don't deny that at all. I just think that with Golden, this is the first time this team has had these type of expectations. Do we really see teams like that go ahead and win it their first year where there's these type of expectations? It's more of just like a probability of something happening that we don't normally see. That's kind of my thoughts.
I couldn't agree more. Do you know how many NCAA tournament games Todd Golden has won?
I think the answer is 0.
The answer is 0. And I just don't think you're going from 0 to 6. I don't think that that's happening. And, just like you said, like there's a million and one reasons why you should pick Florida. Like their Ken Palm stuff looks good. They score the basketball at such a high level. They're big. That Walter Clayton, the third guy, whatever his name is, he's
Patino
awesome.
disciple.
Yes.
Patino disciple.
He's awesome. And that's the other thing. Like when I look up and down their roster, I just don't think that they have a ton of NCAA tournament experience, like as a team either. Like that's one of the reasons why I like Duke a little bit more, because they've got guys that played in that Elite Eight game last year, and they've got Mason Gillis, who obviously played in the national title game last year. I just think experience as a whole for Florida isn't where I would like for it to be.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's just like, what is the likelihood that this team goes from no experience and the coach has no tournament wins to national champion in a blink of an eye? That if I said that to you and didn't put a team to it, and just told you the profile of the team, you would say, no, I'm not picking them.
Yeah.
But since we know it, since they're fun, since they're high flying, that's the reason. And I don't blame anyone for that. It's just like, I feel like there's just smarter decisions out there in the bracket.
I completely agree. Last game that I'll ask you about. It's the last one tonight. Everyone seems to be on this UC San Diego is going to beat Michigan bandwagon. And I don't think there's a chance San Diego beats Michigan. What do you think about that game?
Yeah, I think it gets ugly. I think Michigan maybe blows them out. I don't have a play on that because I'm scared because everyone's talking about them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think Michigan wins. I think the turnover thing has been absolutely pounded into the ground way too much. There's a difference between turning the ball over against Power 5 opponents and turning the teams over in the group, mid-major conferences. I don't think you can necessarily put those together and expect the result. Like, it may happen. Michigan may turn the ball over, a lot, and UC San Diego may force turnovers. I still don't think it matters. I just think Michigan's going to outclass them. Danny Wolf, good guy, turns the ball over a lot regardless, but he still plays well. It's just one of those things that the tournament's so funny, Jay Smith. It's like we have all these narratives and then it doesn't even become about the game anymore. It feels like it's like what mental gymnastics can you do to convince yourself based on one point that everyone is talking about? Are you going to be a contrarian to that point, or are you going to buy into that point? And I think that's this game in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I lied. I lied to you. I am asking you about one more game. I have Arkansas beating Kansas, and it's strictly because I am an Arkansas fan. I will fully admit it. They're probably going to lose today because they've only got 8 guys, and one of them's Boogie Fland, who hasn't played since December. They don't have any front court depth. So while I have Arkansas picked in my bracket, I fully expect for them to lose today. How do you feel about that?
Why would you pick them?
Because
I think it's stupid.
I've got either way. Like honestly, here's how I feel. Like I can't not pick them in the first round. I feel like a bad supporter. But like and like in terms of like, you know, the points for all my bracket groups, I've got St. John's beating Arkansas or Kansas, whoever they play. So it's like I will give up 10 points in like my bracket tournament challenge stuff in order to not feel bad about myself. Because I know I'm gonna root for whoever I pick in my bracket, and I can't not root against Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, two teams that I just absolutely hate playing against each other. but I hate Kansas less. So
fair enough.
I think it's just I don't even know if I'll watch it. I think I'll just watch the game cast.
Hey man, the Yale and Texas A&M play at that time, even though I don't think that game's going to be close. I think A&M's going to crush Yale.
We are really aligned on almost everything.
Makes me feel really good.
Kind of scary.
It makes me feel good because you're usually right on this stuff.
Well, I'm scared because I feel like the whole point of this working is us disagreeing. So I'm worried about.
Okay. What's your biggest upset of round 1?
I don't have a ton. I think it's probably. I think it's VCU over BYU. I didn't really go too crazy with that.
You don't have any 12-5s?
I have Colorado State, but I don't really consider that an upset.
I've got Liberty beating Oregon.
New Mexico, I guess, is another one that we spoke about. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I didn't really go too crazy. I don't think we're gonna see those wild upsets this year.
I got Liberty beating Oregon.
You just told me that was wrong the other night.
I changed my when?
I texted you. I sent you my bets for the tournament, and you told me that you don't agree with Liberty.
Did I really?
Oregon.
I'm so sorry. I changed my mind. Here's what happened. So I think you sent them to me. Let me go back. And I think after you sent them to me, I responded, and then I went back and I did like a little more research. And no, wait,
not
no.
that I like Liberty. Their style doesn't seem to be.
I misunderstood. So you wanted to bet Liberty?
Yes.
I misunderstood your thing then. I thought you wanted to bet Oregon because I'm talking about betting against Liberty. Who wants to do that? I don't. Dude, they, 25th or top 25 in the country in 3-point rate, 5th best 3-point percentage in the country. They're going to score 1 million points, and I don't want to bet against them. So yes, I would take Liberty.
I might have read your message wrong. I might have read your message. This is a classic whodunit.
Seriously, it really is. Oh no!
But long story short, I like Liberty too.
Okay.
I have Liberty plus 7.5 today.
Okay, I like it. I really like that one. How many TVs are currently set up, and how upset is your fiance about it?
She's gone. She's doing research in Virginia, so she doesn't have to deal. She doesn't have to deal with the madness. But the normal setup is the 2 TVs with the multi-view, and then I'll have an iPad and a laptop if needed.
That sounds like my setup. It's so perfect. Amelia's not. Well, Amelia likes basketball, so like she'll be fine. Zach.
You know what I'm about to do? I'm about to go get the biggest box of Cookie Crisp I can find and lock in.
That sounds wonderful. Dude, we got what, like 30 minutes? I think that Louisville and Creighton game tips at like 12:15. That sounds right.
Yeah.
And so we're 30 minutes out. Thanks for hanging on for 45 minutes today. What else were you going to do?
Nothing. Literally nothing.
Zach,
I had planned my whole day around obviously watching the tournament, but I was like, I texted you and I said, I can be on longer than you want. And you were like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take it. Doing this to two people is way more fun. I think it's more fun for the listeners too. They don't want to hear me be like, yeah, I've got Michigan because I don't think UC San Diego is very good. Once again, Zack Gray, professional sports gambler. Follow him on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine. He's been rolling here as of late. He sells tools to help you make better bets. You can check out the link in his Twitter bio to get those. Zach, one more time before you go, you gave out a bet, in the first 5 minutes that you were on. If you want to give that out one more time, and then if you want to drop the record again for the people, go right on ahead.
Yeah. Purdue minus 7.5. I'm on VCU plus 3.5. Give me Texas A&M minus 7. Give me Missouri minus 6. There's more. There's more you can find on the Patreon. Pretty full day of volume. And then as for the record, 116 and 76 in the last 30 days, plus 33 units. Just absolutely crushed it. 4-0 in the NIT last night. So yeah, appreciate you having me on as always, and I can't wait to recap this weekend.
Dude, it's gonna be great. Zach, thanks for your time, man. See you.
Yes, sir.
That is Zack Gray. Once again, check him out on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine. He sells tools to help you make better bets. You can get access to those tools by checking out the link in his Patreon. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, we're gonna wrap up the show, continuing to talk about the NCAA tournaments and probably Darian DeVries.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Big thanks to my good friend Zack Gray for hopping on for like 45 minutes. He does just an excellent, excellent job talking about college basketball. He does a ton of research. You know, it's the reason why he's been rolling here as of late. He says take Purdue, which means I'm taking Purdue today minus 7.5. He thinks that High Point just simply won't be able to score with Purdue. And I agree. Like, Purdue's going to have the two best players in this game. They are Braden Smith and Trey Coppin-Renn. Those are the two best players. And when you have the two best players on the floor, chances are you're probably going to win. We got games starting up here soon. Like, I can't wait. I'm loaded up. I got two TVs going here in the studio. I brought my iPad so I could watch another one. I got my phone with me as well. Like, I'm sitting down. I'm watching these games. I left my lunch at home, which is really frustrating because I wanted to, enjoy my food while I watched the game. And now that is sadly off the table for me. The Dan Dockett Show is going to be live today in Greenwood at the Dave & Buster's down there. Dan is going to set a score for Pop-A-Shot. If you can beat it, then you will then be registered to win a pair of tickets to see the Indiana Pacers play the Orlando Magic on April 11th. Those tickets are provided by Moondrops Distillery. You must be present to win those tickets. And if you don't want them, I will gladly take them. The Orlando Magic are a lot of fun to watch this year. And yeah, tough defensively. When they play the Pacers, those games are always fun. Just wrapping up the show here. I hope you took today off. I hope you took tomorrow off. Sit on your couch, kick back, watch the games, bet your butt off, bet your face off, do all those great and amazing things. We're going to do that Bet 365 bet of the day today with Dan on the Dan Dockett Show. I'm taking Purdue minus 7.5. And, just because, the main man, Zack Gray, told me to in that last segment. And that guy, as I said, has been on a roll here as of late. I can't wait. I can't wait for these games. Darian DeVries, he is the talk of the town. I'll have another guest on tomorrow, Luke Brenneman, to discuss DeVries being hired by Indiana University, not the University of Indiana, but Indiana University. So they are, I can't wait. The DeVries era, hopefully at Indiana, is what kind of gets the school back on the map. Isn't right. So that's not the proper way for me to say it, but let's get some national prominence back to, Indiana University. Cause that's just, like they aren't on the same level as the, Carolinas and the Dukes of this world. But, hopefully DeVries kind of gets them back to that point. John Buzzer chiming in on the YouTube chat, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, you can watch the show there tomorrow as we are about to wrap up. John Buzzer said he went to the Mavs game yesterday with clients, and somehow the Pacers pulled that game out. I'm glad they did. Down by 7, a minute left, and they found a way to win. I mean, just incredible. One could argue that, bad teams, don't play the Mavericks that close. Another could argue that good teams win close games and they execute down the stretch without their best player. So, I don't know. Kind of depends on how you want to look at it. I guess that's going to do it here at the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Get your butt down to Greenwood, Dave & Buster's to hang out with Dan Dockett today during all of the games. Purdue playing at 12:30, 12:40, whatever time that ends up being. Take them minus 7.5. It's my favorite play of the day. Big thanks to Zack Gray for coming on and doing a good 45 minutes. Kent Sterling is going to join Dan at some point today. He's going to stop in live down there at the Dave & Buster's, and then Eddie White is going to hop on the show at 2 o'clock. It's going to be good. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune in to my show. I'll be back on the air tomorrow from 10 to noon. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way here in about 5 minutes.